So I wanted to talk about this Ubisoft executive that said that gamers need to get comfortable with not owning games. Um, he said it recently in an interview, talking about Ubisoft Plus and what's the future of the platform as a subscription based platform or service. And one of the things he had to say was that now that's kind of the headline that you will see everywhere. Um, and everyone is going, you know, as usual, going crazy about it. I mean, people are not happy with that, rightfully, and I think it's people are not necessarily incorrect when they feel like, you know, that's a bad thing. Um, not owning games. If you purchase something, you want to be the owner of that something, right? And especially in video games, because video games, they have this kind of in between being, what you call it, this there's something about video games that share the place in commerce, that it's kind of a product, tangible product. Like I don't feel this the same as a movie. For example, if I pay to watch a movie, I just watch the movie. If I didn't like it, um I didn't like it, right? And I can say, and that movie was bad, I didn't like it, and move on. But with games, there's something else, because it's kind of it's a piece of software. Like, if you buy, I don't know, Microsoft Office, and it doesn't work, then there's a problem there, right? Even though I think Office is not, it's in the cloud now. You don't buy it as a software anymore, do you? I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while since I used Office, but you get me, right? If I buy Photoshop, um, I own Photoshop as, not only as, like, it's like a tangible product that I own. When I watch a movie, I watch the movie, and that's when I pay to watch a movie, I watch the movie. Now I can buy a DVD and Blu-ray, and that's ownership. But let's dig into the whole conversation or interview here, and let's get into the right context, because I don't think that these headlines and these news outlets and these content creators are contextualizing the conversation in the right way. Um, for what purposes? I don't know, maybe views and clicks. Because it has generated, it's been successful at that. But let's get into the article, because it's important that we contextualize it, and not make it look bad. And not I'm not in the interest of defending Ubisoft and their business practices, but I just hate how misconstrued this information has become, um, because of certain people, wanting to generate clicks and views on behalf of someone who didn't intend to say what people are misconstruing the information to be. So let's get into the article. This is the article. The new Ubisoft Plus and getting gamers comfortable with not owning their games. So they're talking about this new I don't want to say rebrand. Yeah, it's a rebrand of Ubisoft Plus and the addition of Ubisoft Classic, which is access to like older games and such. Ubisoft has rebranded its subscription. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. I think that's better. Ubisoft has rebranded its subscription offering and introduced a new service for PC players. Okay, Ubisoft main all singing, all dance subscription offering has been rebranded Ubisoft Plus Premium. The service is the one that features all the new releases, such as this week's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which I just got. separately. I don't have like the subscription. I just got this game. I'm gonna be streaming it today, which is available early to subscribers. Okay, it cost $18 and it's accessible PC, Xbox, Amazon, Luna, blah blah blah. So then they are launching this Ubisoft Classic on PC for $8. Apparently, I'm reading through the words here quickly because I don't want to spend that much time in this announcement because I want to get into the meat of the conversation. What was that? Let me just mute. Um, yeah, when we look at how gamers engage, this is important. We looked at the consumer behavior and how people were interacting with our offer, and we saw an opportunity for us to evolve. Explain Philippe Tremblay, which is this guy, right? It's the executive we're talking about, director of subscription at Ubisoft. And this is important how he talks about this. He says, we looked at the consumer behavior. I think that's very important to note. Take a note of that. And then again, important to note, when we look at how gamers engage with our different games, we see that our back catalog is still very active and alive. So we saw an opportunity to offer these worlds to our consumers for a lower fee. And this is a response to the behavior that we saw from players. Again, I want to highlight that. We look at how gamers engage. And then again, this is a response to the behavior that we saw from players. Take note of how he explains their evaluation process to make certain decisions, right? It's based on what the players, gamers, users, consumers are actually doing in their platforms. So I think that's very important to note because I'm going to say later. Tremblay says that the company has seen millions of subscribers over the last 4 years who have collectively played over 500 million hours of gameplay. Some sign up to trial one game for a month or two, while others come in, stick around, and play numerous titles. Okay, that's fine. There are multiple behaviors. Again, there are multiple behaviors. I think that's very important to note. He explains there are definitely a lot of people who come in for one game and then decide to buy it after the subscription, right? He's talking about how people come to play a game at Ubisoft and after they play the game, they decide to buy the game. Like, what I'm assuming here is that people will come in for the trial that they offer, play a game, then the subscription and that trial period ends, and they end up buying the game, not necessarily the subscription. That's a part of the reality, and that's okay with us. Okay, that's fine. It's like every other subscription model that they offer, like 7-day trial. People will jump in and just keep the subscription or not. Ubisoft Plus premium price point exceeds in some cases what Xbox and PlayStation charge for their services. Some of these will be to do with the business realities behind putting brand new AAA games into a subscription service, but Tremblay believes the cost is reasonable considering what's on offer. Sorry. We're talking day one releases. I mean, here they're talking about like the price point. He's defending the price point, which is apparently it's a bit more expensive, and then saying why he thinks that's a fair thing. I'm just gonna continue, and don't just get access to these games, you get a premium edition, so you get a better editions with a subscription. We have rewards too. A big advantage, they can play on multiple devices. From one subscription you can access PC, Xbox, and Amazon Luna from just the single Ubisoft Plus premium subscription. Okay, now here's where we get into the most interesting part of the conversation. There's a lot of debate around subscription in video games today. There's a lot of debate around subscription in video games. Today, the business model is the dominant way for paying TV, film, and music. Of course, we had the Netflixes of the world, the Disneys of the world, and then the Spotifys, the titles of the world. Um, so, yes, but that's not currently the case in this industry, the gaming industry. Games are typically much longer. Many of them are free or feature some other form of monetization, and AAA publishers have argued that the numbers just don't add up. Meaning, the numbers with this type of games under a subscription model. Nevertheless, Ubisoft is seeing growth in this sector. Tremblay says that October last year was the biggest month at Ubisoft Plus history. It's I think that has to do with the fact that they released a few games that have been well received. I think Mirage was a little bit polarizing, but overall, I think it had a good reception, and I haven't played it, so I'm not gonna have an opinion on the game. But apparently, it was a decent game. Avatar, which I played, I think it had good reception. Again, the your typical YouTuber, clickbaity YouTuber, just trash the game because that's what they do to get their clicks. Um, but Avatar was a decent game and it was well received. And then the Lost Crown for um Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown has been getting fabulous reviews. So I'm guessing that people are opting in because they're seeing something interesting here. So let's keep going. The point is not to force users to go down one route or another. This is very important that a lot of the content creators that I've seen trashing this article skip, right? Because right off the bat, what people start saying is that Ubisoft just wants to make people not own games. They want all gamers to jump into the subscription model and not own the games and screw the gamers. That's kind of the attitude and point of view, and what I've seen most of the content creators talking about this kind of want to push. It sometimes it feels like they have an agenda or something, or it feels very propaganda-ish because it's like they have yeah, it's interesting. Like it becomes like woke like woke ideology in gaming, right? So let's continue. The point is not to force users to go down one route or another, he explains. We offer purchase, meaning purchasing games, like you can go to the store, buy the Lost Crown, and you know, just that. We offer subscription, and it's the gamer's preference that is important here. We're seeing some people who buy. We're seeing some people who buy choosing to subscribe now, but it all works. So I think that's very important, and people skip this line because of what I just mentioned. Um, I think also this is very important because it's ultimately not Ubisoft or EA or whoever or Game Pass, Microsoft, who are like, I'm sorry, I'm getting I'm a bit congested and I have a bit of allergies, so apologize if I sound horrible, but this is important to me because there's a truth here that no one want it seems like no one wants to talk about, and is the responsibility that us as consumers we have. Ubisoft is not shoving down our throats a subscription model. They're putting it out there and they're listening, you know, the behavior of the consumers, you know? That's why I said these lines, when we look at gamers engagement, right? This is a response of the user's behavior. There are multiple behaviors. That's why I emphasize on that so much, because this is what's happening here. They have the, their regular offer, which is here's a game, you pay $50 and you get the game, and that's it. And offer a subscription base which gives you access to the games, not ownership of the games. And that's not a lie. That's not, you know, um misconstruing the information. That's what it is. Like, you offer purchase of ownership, which I'm gonna touch on later, because there's some areas here that we need to talk about too, in terms of perception and offering. So you purchase the game, the regular type that we all feel like we own the game, or the subscription base, which we get access to the catalog of games, but not own them. Just like Netflix, you don't own all of the content on Netflix, you just have access to it. And it's the gamer's preference, so that it's important here. And I agree completely. What is really important is the gamer's preference. So it's not Ubisoft, or it's not a publishers or a AAA game publisher slash developer at fault. I mean, they're just doing business. He says that subscription has enabled Ubisoft to bring in new players, with 1 in 10 Ubisoft Plus subscribers having never engaged with the company's games before, which is a good thing for them, right? It is proving to be a way for gamers to access our worlds who perhaps weren't inclined to purchase. And that's okay. Then this is what I when that bothers me. It's like, why is it bad that a company gives options? Why is it so bad that companies give options, even in microtransactions? Right? I'm not pro microtransactions. And since I'm not pro microtransactions, I don't do microtransactions. But there are a lot of games that include microtransactions. They are not invasive, they are not needed. Like, there's a lot of Ubisoft games that, yes, they have the store, like Avatar. Avatar has a store of microtransactions, so you can buy some um um suits and such, like cosmetics. But but that doesn't block you, or it's not needed for you to play the game. Like, I played the game and I never went to the shop because it's not needed. But for those, for some reason, that want to kind of, go ahead and buy some cosmetics, a set of armor or whatever, um the option is there. And I just don't agree with all gamers being 100% opposed to that. Like, if it doesn't make me not play the game, if I can play the game and just don't care about that store, then that's fine. I don't mind the microtransactions. Same thing with streaming or with the subscription model. If I don't if I don't like the subscription model and I still can buy the games separately, I don't mind that there's a subscription model. Now, would I want a subscription model take over as the only way to play games? That's a different story. But that's not on the companies anyways. I mean, the companies like Ubisoft, like Microsoft, they put out the subscription and let the market decide. And that's what it is. Just let the market decide. And I think that's one piece of information that a lot of content creators and a lot of people just avoid mentioning, I think. Okay, so then the question remains around the potential of the subscription model in games. Tremblay says that there is tremendous opportunity for growth, but what it is going to take for a subscription to step up and become a more significant proportion of the industry? So this is a question that I'm assuming it was asked to him in this interview. And his response is, I don't have a crystal ball, but when you look at the different subscription services that are out there, we've had a rapid expansion over the last couple of years, but it's still relatively small compared to other models. He begins, we're seeing expansion on console as the likes of PlayStation and Xbox bring new people in. On PC, from a Ubisoft standpoint, it's already been great, but we're looking to reach out more on PC, so we see opportunity there. He continues, one of the things we saw, again, one of the things we saw in the gamers is that gamers, excuse me. Okay, so one of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. Okay, they are looking at what the gamers want. They're evaluating the market. They're not just, we like to say that these are greedy bastards and they just want to suck their monies and steal our money, and they're greedy and bad, and and all those things that we are used to say. But the truth is, they are they are a business, and they have to, you know make profitable things. And two, they're listening to the audience. They're listening to the consumers in a marketing way. I'm not saying they're listening to feedback on games, right? Their audience on what the game should be. That's a different topic, and that's a different conversation. We're talking about user behavior on consumption of their products. So one of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games. That's the consumer shift that needs to happen. Okay, so this is where it gets controversial. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grow comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not being deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning the game. So this is the line that this is the portion that people are raging about. But to be honest, he is not saying gamers stop wanting to own the games. He's not saying that. Gamers, you have to get used to subscription and not owning the games. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, what he's responding to is this question: what is it going to take for subscription to step up and become a more significant proportion of the industry? Well, this is one thing that has to happen in order for this to happen. This is one thing that, and this is 100% true. I must say that probably the biggest barrier to the subscription model to work and to become a significantly more normal, let's say, in the industry, like, this is the biggest barrier, I think, is ownership, is that gamers want to own their games. And that's what he's saying here. He's not saying we gotta convert. He's saying this is the barrier that I have if we wanted to make subscription, if we want subscription to become a more significant proportion of the industry. So this whole conversation has been taken out of context for whatever reason the content creators and the news outlets wanted to. So let's continue reading. I still have 2 boxes of DVDs. I definitely understand the gamer's perspective with that. But as people embrace that model, they will see that these games will exist, the service will continue, and you'll be able to access them when you feel like. That's reassuring. Streaming is also a thing that works really well with subscription. So you pay when you need it, as opposed to paying all the time. So um, there's something interesting here because I mean, it's kind of mixing two things, right? Subscription model, streaming, and given that we have so many subscription models out of gaming, there are streaming platforms. We kind of mix both together in the conversation. Sorry, but to me, those are two completely different things, right? Um, However, it is true that when you subscribe, it's easier and a better way to put out the product of streaming, because you can have people, and Sony PlayStation already has this. Like, you subscribe to their PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium or whatever they have, Essentials. I don't remember the tiers, but when you subscribe to the higher tier, you get a catalog of games, and you also get streaming for older games and for newer games. Now, again, we gotta understand that that what we are doing with the subscription model is having access to the games. Now, why I wanna stop there a little bit is because there's this illusion, in my opinion, there's kind of like an illusion of ownership, because this is what the whole conversation is about, right? It's ownership. And I agree. Like, I don't there's the whole conversation of physical media. Let's start there, which is a completely different conversation. The only way you really own something is through physical media. And I can see how a lot of publishers are moving away from physical media. And that, to me, is not only a completely different conversation, but um it's it's important that we differentiate it, and we kind of have that has its own compartment. Why is that? It's because physical media um has been declining in sales, and we see how a lot of games, not a lot of games, I've seen two games recently being released as digital only games, no physical media. Alan Wake 2 was released digital only on Epic Store. And then yesterday I saw that Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, is releasing only in digital. Okay, so there we have an ownership conversation, interesting ownership conversation. Because how are we gonna get those games? Okay, so let's say we go to Epic Store or to Steam and we get them. Do we really own those games? Is my question. Or do we have the illusion that we own those games? Because the same way everyone is complaining about the subscription model being, okay, I pay for the subscription, but I don't own the games, and then the platform goes offline, so I lose the games. I could argue that with purchasing the games digitally, we are in the same position, because technically speaking, let's say I buy a game on Steam, I feel like I own it and I have it in my library. But if Steam goes offline tomorrow, I cannot play those games unless I hack them or something for them to run without Steam. But ultimately, all of the games that I own in Steam, um, I could lose them tomorrow if Steam just closes or goes offline, especially if I don't have it downloaded in my computer. So the only way that we can speak of ownership here is if we actually go for physical media. Because every other way, including subscription, which to me, the conversation talking about subscription doesn't make any sense. Now, digital sales, that's a whole different story. Just like with Sony, what happened was that they closed. They're not selling, or they took out all the, I think, Disney content from their stores. Discovery, I think it was Discovery or Warner content, something like that. Um, they're not having it in their stores anymore, so people who purchase them will not have access to them anymore. And that's that there you have an ownership problem. But with the subscription model, I think the conversation with the subscription model is just not good, because a subscription model is not a subscription model anywhere else. It's not giving you the product is or the content. It's not that you're buying the content. It's just that you're getting access to the content. And yes, you can go to the content wherever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. Like with Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount, whatever, all these streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, blah 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 blah. So if Spotify tomorrow closes, it's not that you lose your music, right? Same thing with games in subscription models. So I don't see the controversy. Now, what I do see is that we are losing physical media. That's I think is where the conversation should be, skewed to, because that's where you are truly losing ownership of your games. That's where you're truly losing ownership of your games, because in digital stores, I, c- I could argue you don't own the games either. You feel like you like an owner a little bit more than any other. But if it's Epic Store closes tomorrow, announces that um they're gonna close the store, and I won't have access to my games, even though I feel like I own them. Same with Steam, same with any other digital store. So that's something I wanna talk about, because I think this whole article and what this guy said, it has been taken out of context big time. Like big time. Um when he speaks about gamers having to get comfortable in the aspect of not owning the games, he is just saying that's what has to happen if we were to have subscription. If that's what needs to happen to take a subscription model to become a more significant proportion of the industry. He's just responding to this question. He's not saying that that's going to happen. He's not asking us to get comfortable with that. He's just saying, in our consumer studies that we listen, where is it? The behaviors, right? That we listen to, how we see gamers engage with our platforms, for it to keep growing and for it to become a standard in an industry, this has to happen. And this hasn't happened. Actually, he says that. Where is it? It's slower to happen somewhere in the article. He talks about how, um, yeah, here it is. That's a transformation that's being a bit slower to happen in games. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, because, yeah, I already said why. I think this whole conversation has been taken out of context, has been blown out of proportion without any without, I mean, unnecessarily. Um, and it's not fair to our industry. I think this type of conversations, when they get misconstrued this way and taken out of context, they are not only hurting Ubisoft, which, don't get me wrong, Ubisoft has made, uh, v- they have quite a few historical decisions that are not very pro-consumer, and I have to give that to them. But also have to give them that, you know not everything. I mean, this guy didn't say anything wrong here. That's what I'm trying to say. And the way that the conversation has been taken out of context, it's not only hurting this guy and Ubisoft, it hurts the entire industry. And I don't think we'll get better things, better games, better services, um better anything when we have these type of conversations, because it's just video game wokeness to this point. It's kind of, that's how I see it. It's a little bit of video gamers, like gamers wokeness, where it feels more very emotional, the reaction that people get, and very ideological in a sense, not really reading the articles and just basing, it's like journalists. They kind of play as if they were journalists and they're making news and talking about things, but they're only reading a headline and not really elaborating. And when they read the article, they just cherry pick the portions that serve their purpose or their goal, which is, um trash this poor guy and take him out of context and justify their need to complain and to kind of, it's all for clicks. They just do it for clicks, to be honest. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate at this. I mean, if people watch this video, I don't expect a lot of people to watch this video, but um they just do it for a lot of clicks. They just do it for clicks, for sensationalism. They just do it, you know to fire up people, and I don't think that's good. I think that creates a very toxic environment in our industry. So, and we're not gonna get better games with that. We're not gonna get better games. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about this, and hopefully you get something positive out of this. And please stop the misinformation and stuff, and coming up with, yeah, all of that. See you later.